been in about the last 5
minutes.
Once again, we are tracking the ground. Tornado has a circulation that connects the western Kingman County newsroom. What you're looking at there, what we're looking at, obviously it was filmed in a cemetery, but with the trees in the foreground,
western Kingman County
newsroom, whether or not the circulation has made a complete connection to the ground. But that's the difference between funnel cloud and tornado. And we're going off of the reports that we got from meteorologists that were actually following these storms through portions of Barber and Pratt counties. Now, slowly, we've been collecting a lot of reports from those two particular counties of reports of tornadoes, and this is what we have now as we pass 4:30 in the afternoon. We do have a couple different areas. You're going to see all the different reports here. Now, there were some initial reports of lowerings to the east of Pratt. Those storms have shifted now well to the east of Pratt, and there's no danger in the city of Pratt, but officially the southeast corner of the county continues under a tornado warning. But the storms that are redeveloping now from just northeast of Medicine Lodge right up into western Kingman County, there could still be some very brief tornadoes occurring with this line of storms. Once again, as a meteorologist, when we see a line of storms, we think, well, probably brief tornadoes, because when you get tornadoes that last for a long period of time, normally they're away from everything else. And when storms come together and it becomes a little messy like this is what happened yesterday and why we didn't have a lot of tornadoes on the ground for long periods of time, because we're dealing with kind of a messy storm environment now. When storms merge together, it has a tendency to decrease the tornado threat. So hopefully, because we're dealing with more of a line here, we're not going to be dealing with any high impact tornadoes here where they come down and stay on the ground for several hours. When you think of long track tornadoes, you think of Greensburg, you think of Andover and Heston. We're not really looking at that kind of setup for today. So that is some good news. But once again, if you're in Cunningham, if you're west of Kingman, you need to be in your storm shelter now, because we want everybody to be safe as these storms pass on through. We've got the possibility for some small hail with these storms. There may also be some strong winds, maybe up to 60 miles per hour. But we're going with the reports of isolated tornadoes that we've had, and there have been a string of them. You can see following the line of storms now into western Kingman County. And so we want you to be in your closet. We want you to be in your bathroom. We want you to be in a safe place and wrap yourself up in pillows and blankets. I know at 4:30 in the afternoon, a lot of us are still out trying to get some of our afternoon activities done. Some of you might be out driving around, and it's a good idea to try to get to a storm shelter if at all possible. And if it lasts, worst case scenario, you've got to seek shelter in a ditch, do that. Don't try to ride out one of these storms by staying in your car. If you're looking at a tornado that's coming at you, you want to get into a ditch and not try to ride this out in your vehicle. That's not going to be a good idea. But these storms, once again, are moving to the northeast and will be impacting much of western Kingman County at least through the next 20 to 30 minutes. Whether or not Kingman, the city of Kingman, is going to see a tornado, we just don't know right now, because the storms are taking on more of a line. Hopefully by the time that they get to the city of Kingman, we're talking about some heavy rainfall and maybe some gusty winds at the worst case scenario, and hopefully there still won't be a tornado with any of this. But looks like the tornado warning for Pratt County is expiring on time, so some good news there. Just want to make sure I haven't overlooked anything here, because we're continuing to get some additional reports of tornadoes with these storms. We'll kind of move the map around once again just so everybody knows what's going on here. We're still at least another hour or two away from these storms getting into Sedgwick County. You can see Wichita's over here, so we're talking about areas that are well west of the city. Hutchinson's right up here at the top part of your screen, so we're looking at areas that are safely to the west of both towns right now. And if you're in Hutchinson, just keep an eye on it, because there's a good chance by this time the storms get to Hutch, once again, we're looking at some heavy rain, maybe some very small hail, some gusty winds. I don't think you got to move to a place of safety in Hutch right now, because we're still several minutes away from that happening. But as you watch the radar animate, this whole line of storms here is gradually working its way to the east. It's not a very wide line of storms, but it is fairly lengthy, because it actually goes all the way down into Oklahoma and goes all the way up through central and northern Kansas. And as the line continues to advance to the east, we'll hope that it becomes more wind and rain, not so much tornadic. But this is what we're dealing with at the present time. Tornado warning continues until 5:15. for Kingman and Reno counties. And once again, the tornado warning for the southeast corner of Pratt County is just about ready to expire, and will do so, as we've been hearing from the National Weather Service. The northeast corner of Barber County continues under a tornado warning as well. We zoom back into the areas where we're still dealing with the possibility of some circulations, and we'll try to see what the latest scans of radar are showing us. And it still looks like we've got some areas here to the east of Turon and in the Cunningham area, another vicinity that we're watching right now. And as we take a look on the inside of these storms, just to see if we can find any of those greens and reds matching up next to each other, you know, there's an area there to the south of Turon that might look a little suspicious to you, but I don't think that looks like anything that appears to be all that alarming right now. As we go south toward Cunningham, the rotation signatures that we're seeing look fairly weak from the radar. But once again, because there's a lot of humidity in the atmosphere today, the bases of these storm clouds are very close to the ground, so even sometimes the smallest bit of rotation can get something to spin up in just a matter of seconds. So just because we don't see those impressive signatures on the radar doesn't mean we should let our guard down at all with these storms, because they continue to be quite dangerous. And the history of these storms certainly would suggest keeping the tornado warnings going now for a little while longer as they continue to work their way through western portions of Reno County. If you're in Arlington, you need to be watching the storms, paying attention to what's going on. If you're in the city of Kingman, you've got about 20 to 25 minutes before the storms will get to your location, and when they do, I would expect they're going to produce some very heavy rains, maybe some wind gusts in here of 50 to 60 miles per hour. But because the storms have produced isolated tornadoes, we do continue with those warnings in those particular areas. So Pratt County tornado warning is expiring. We do continue with the tornado warning for Barber County until 5 o'clock this evening. And so once again, watching these storms continuing to move on to the east. I think the southeast corner of Pratt County is safely now kind of getting out of harm's way as these storms continue to move on to the east fairly quickly. We'll go back to the south end of this line of storms here as we take a look areas to the south of Kingman. We're looking at areas back to the west of Zenda here. This little circulation that we're looking at toward the Nashville area might spin up another tornado, but we don't have any confirmation of that now and haven't for about 10 minutes or so. Merrill?
The Storm Prediction Center down in Norman, Oklahoma, just now issuing a tornado watch for south central Kansas and north central Oklahoma until 10 o'clock tonight. I'm watching my computer over here. We haven't gotten all the details on what counties are going to be involved in that watch, so I can't show it to you graphically as of yet, but we should have it within the next few minutes. I can tell you, but I don't know that that's going to really help out too much. The watch area is along and 55 miles north and south of the line, from 50 miles southwest of Hutchinson to 40 miles south of Emporia. So that's basically all of south central into parts of eastern Kansas, as well as down into extreme northern portions of Oklahoma. And Ross was mentioning a little while ago about low-topped thunderstorms. And they're saying that the maximum tops they're expecting from any severe storms this afternoon in this watch area, 40,000 feet. May sound like a lot. Yesterday, Tuesday, when we had the severe weather, they were estimating cloud tops of 50 and 55,000 feet. So saying 40,000 feet, that's what Ross was referring to about low-topped thunderstorms. Also lower bases, which means closer to the ground. If something spins up, it's got a better chance of making contact with the ground. Nothing yet to plot on there, but I just did want to once again show you we're looking still at those very strong storms that are making their way through western portions of Kingman County. We've also got Reno County, and it's all going to continue to march on to the east and northeast over the next few hours. Ross?
Okay, Merrill, we did get a report that Barton County has been taken out of the severe thunderstorm warning, so some good news there as we continue with tornado warnings, though. For Kingman County, that goes until 5:15. We also have northeastern Barber County still under a tornado warning. It looks like the threat, though, has pretty well moved out of the southeast corner of Pratt County, so some good news to pass along there. Once again, if you're in the path of one of these storms, really one of the best methods to keep up with us is to have our Storm Team 12 weather app. I know we talk about it a lot, but but in the event that you would lose power, you can actually continue to follow our coverage on there. So if your radio goes out and you don't have any fresh batteries available, you lose your TV signal. Some of you on satellite might lose your signal in and around some of these storms. That's really a very useful tool because, once again, you lose power, you can continue to follow our coverage as we watch these storms work their way through portions of central Kansas. So this is the situation for now. We don't have a lot of warnings out there, but the ones that we do have are urgent because we've had reports of tornadoes with these storms as they are now basically in the western section of Kingman County and continuing to move to the northeast. I've been checking some information, our feed of information coming in from the National Weather Service, and it's probably been now 15 minutes, if not longer, since we've had anything confirmed on the ground. And that kind of goes along with what we're anticipating out of these storms. An isolated tornado is possible. We may still get another isolated tornado. We just don't know for sure. But based on the way things are setting up in the atmosphere today, we don't expect to have those long track violent tornadoes like we can sometimes get and kind of like we thought the setup might provide for us yesterday. But now storms are getting in closer to the Arlington area, and we still have some interesting appendages on these storms, which indicates to us that there continues to be some rotation with them. So you don't want to let your guard down, but I think what's a little bit encouraging for us is that we haven't had any reports of additional tornadoes out of these storms. Now, that's not to say we couldn't get something to spin up very quickly, but we do want to remind you that as we continue to get reports in from chasers and spotters that are out there, just double checking here to make sure we haven't missed anything, and we're really not seeing anything standing out from a wind mode of radar that would indicate that there's strong rotation in these storms, but because there's a lot of humidity out there, even sometimes the smallest spin up sometimes can go undetected by the radar. Merrill?
Well, we do have one now depiction, Ross, of that tornado watch that's just been issued by the Storm Prediction Center. I know it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to see, but the north edge of that watch kind of splits Rice County just about in half. So it runs through Chase and Lyons and then goes over just to the north of McPherson, but south of Lindsborg, over northern portions of Marion County. Oops, let me correct that very quickly here. It's going to be a little bit wider view, but you'll be able to get the idea. Let me make sure that that doesn't happen again. Okay, now. Well, the computer. Okay, Ross, you want to take it until I can get this settled down?
Yeah, we can actually look at some video from earlier. This was some video shot from a viewer, Ashley. She was actually out near the Medicine Lodge area. If memory serves me correctly, she was off to the south of Medicine Lodge looking back to the north. And once again, as she kind of scans the landscape there, you can see right there in the middle part of your screen, from this viewpoint here, it looks like a cone-shaped funnel. But we had some other people that were a lot closer to the storm that did report it as a tornado. But we report what we see, and at least from this viewpoint, you know, if we were out there spotting storms, we would report this as a funnel cloud just because there's too much stuff in front of that funnel to see if it actually has contact with the ground. The difference between funnel and tornado: funnel does not have contact with the ground. Tornado actually does. So just recapping what we have right now, tornado warnings continue for Reno County. It continues for Kingman County. We can give the all clear now to Barber and Pratt counties. The tornado warnings have been canceled there. But this cluster of storms that we're looking at to the west of Arlington and back to the west of Kingman, there's still a tornado warning in effect for these particular storms. And so we don't want you to let your guard down just yet, especially for western portions of Reno County down into northwestern Kingman County. We continue to see at least some very weak rotation within these storms as they continue to move to the northeast. Merrill?
Okay, Ross, we're going to try this again. I still don't have it on my other graphic system. But again, this is a tornado watch in effect until 10 o'clock this evening for a big chunk of south central Kansas, from around Lyons and Chase in Rice County over to the north of McPherson and all the way over to Emporia. The south edge is just over the very northern expanses of Oklahoma, from Alfalfa County all the way over to Osage County. And then you've got the eastern side goes from Emporia down to about Sedan. The west edge is basically the west edge of the thunderstorms that we're seeing out there right now. So more or less it goes from around the Ellenwood area on straight southward into the far eastern portions of Barber County, again, Alfalfa County in Oklahoma. So everything within that area now under a tornado watch. Not a warning, a tornado watch. That goes until 10 o'clock tonight. Once again, you can see that tornado warned area in southwestern Reno County, western portions of Kingman County. Those are the most dangerous storms. Secondarily, we still have that severe thunderstorm warning that goes from the northwest portion of Reno County up through Rice, southern sections of Ellsworth. And those storms are moving to the east-northeast right now. Some large hail, maybe some gusty winds in some isolated locales with that batch of thunderstorms. Looks like the strongest right now is just to the west of Nickerson, right along the Reno-Rice County line. So watch out if you're in the Nickerson area, maybe experiencing some strong winds and some significant hail, at least up to about quarter size within about the next 20 or 25 minutes. The other storms that we showed you earlier were in western portions of Harvey County. Nothing severe here, but you can see there's still one there. There's another one that's over Mound Ridge right now in south central and southeastern parts of McPherson County, but certainly nothing of any concern with that activity there. Very quickly, just want to kind of take you a little bit further to the south to show you there are other scattered showers and thunderstorms down into western portions of Oklahoma. So we're going to have to watch that all very, very closely to see if there's any further development with that. So far, it really hasn't amounted to much of anything at all. But we're going to be, of course, keeping a close watch on all of that for you also, just in case it might eventually make its way up here into Kansas. Ross?
Okay, Merrill, we will put storm tracks on these cells as they continue to move to the east because we want to let you know who might be next in line. The warning for Kingman County and portions of Reno County do continue until 5:15. We have not received the all clear just yet, but I will tell you the rotation still within these storms is fairly weak. But these storms could produce some very brief tornadoes still as they approach the Arlington area. You can see Pretty Prairie is outside of the red box here, not in a tornado warning. So keep an eye on what's developing to your west. And we do have someone out there now. Okay, we do have one of our own Eyewitness News photographers headed west down K96. We can check his view maybe here quickly. You're going to see a lot of dark-looking clouds because where he's at in relation to where the storms are now are still several miles back to the west. Again, he's on K96 traveling up toward Hutchinson, so he's going to try to intercept that storm as he gets closer to Hutch. But what we're anticipating to happen here, I think we're probably not looking at an imminent tornado danger. These storms are in part of a line now, and when that happens, it's a little less likely that you're going to get a tornado. It doesn't completely drop the chances down to zero, but it is something that we can be a little bit more confident in now that we're starting to see more of a line forming here. Our view from Hutchinson on Capitol Federal Skycam looking off to the west, you can see a lot of dark-looking clouds, an ominous-looking sky. We cannot pick out any particular cloud features here. We're certainly not seeing a tornado. We're not seeing a wall cloud or anything like that because we're just not in the right spot. If we were going to position ourselves to see anything with this storm in western Reno County, we would want to be more to the south of the storm, looking back in from the southeast, looking back toward the northwest, and we're just not in the right spot with our camera here. But an ominous-looking sky for those of you in Hutchinson looking out your window. I know the skies are getting dark. We do have some storms rolling in from the west, and by the time they get to Hutch, I'm anticipating some heavy rainfall, some very small hail. The wind is probably going to be a more significant feature here as the storms come in from the west. And just double checking here because we've got some new information to pass along to you. It doesn't sound like we have any tornadoes on the ground at this particular time. So we're going to continue. We do continue with the tornado warnings, but once again, if you're just joining our coverage or you're a little bit concerned about what's going on here in western Reno County and western Kingman County, we do not, to our knowledge, have any tornadoes happening right now, and that is definitely some good news. We'll just kind of expand the view and let you know what we're anticipating as we move through the rest of the evening hours. Of course, Merrill told you about the tornado watch that's been issued for a big chunk of south central Kansas until 10 o'clock tonight. We're anticipating isolated severe storms. And even though there is a tornado watch that, of course, is not a guarantee we're going to see additional tornado warnings, it's just a reminder that the environment is still supportive of these storms to produce an isolated tornado. We might get a brief spin up here and there. We're not expecting a lot of tornadoes tonight. And as this line of storms continues to move in from the west, Once again, for Hutchinson, it's kind of looking like within the next 30 minutes the storms will reach your location. Now, the rainfall might start before then, but the more intense part of the storms are still about 20 to 30 minutes away. And we will put a storm track on the whole line here. We'll stop tracking where we see the weak rotation. We'll just track the whole line here for you, moving it east about 35 to 40 miles per hour. And there you see Hutchinson at 519, Yoder at 524, Haven at 533, could get to Andale, putting it into western Sedgwick County then at 549. I would expect heavy rainfall, dangerous lightning, gusty winds maybe up to 60 miles per hour. The hail within these storms I think is probably going to be smaller than 1 inch in diameter. And in fact, since we've been tracking these storms now for about an hour, we have not received any reports of large hail. Most of what we have been getting are isolated tornado reports, and you can see the icons that have been popping up across Barber County, the southeast corner of Pratt County. And the last report of a tornado we got was about 7 miles to the north of the Nashville area in far western Kingman County, and now that line of storms once again on the move. When will the storms get to Wichita? Some of you wanting to know that. That's likely to still be at least an hour and a half away, maybe closer to 2 hours. But with the storms moving as they are, they will eventually impact Sedgwick County. It's only a matter of time, but we do think that that's probably at least another hour and a half away. The storms do extend up into parts of central Kansas, and within this line of storms, there could be a brief spin up from time to time. We're not expecting long track violent tornadoes. That was kind of the anticipation yesterday, but we have not anticipated that, and I don't think we're looking at that kind of environment here as we move through the next several hours. Looking back toward the south, down into Harper County, we've got a few showers to the west of Harper and Anthony, nothing threatening there. And then as we scan back to the north, you can see for Hutchinson, the storms are still to